When he told me that, I really didn't know what to think because I just quit my job. I didn't want to be an employee. I didn't want to work for somebody else. Me working on this team was one of the biggest things that helped me become a closer. I haven't got any deals. I'm getting deals under contract, but nothing's closed. Welcome back, dogs. We just talked about just the importance of community building, how important it is to be around like-minded individuals who see the vision. And we talked about some really, really good feedback and advice that I got from some great friends in that community. Today, we're going to talk about how I implemented that and how that advice turned me into the beast closer I am today. All right, so I've done 3 deals. I've just quit my job because I thought I was the shit. And now I'm trying to figure out how do I become a closer. And I got that great advice from Marlon. He told me to join the team. When he told me that, I really didn't know what to think because I just quit my job. I didn't want to be an employee. I didn't want to work for somebody else. In fact, I would never even say that I worked for somebody. I would always say that I worked on his team. I worked with this guy because my pride was too high. I didn't want to say I worked for somebody after I just quit. But that me working on this team was one of the biggest things that helped me become a closer because I joined a business that was actually working. I joined somebody who actually knew what they were talking about, and he had years and years and years of sales experience that I had no clue. I didn't even know that this was sales. I didn't even know what I was doing with sales at the time. And he introduced me to a whole nother world where we would do role plays every single day. We'd work with the team. I would get feedback from on my calls, on my call, like I would get call calibrations and we'd go over that. And then I would be able to listen to his calls as well. So not only were I listening to Pace's calls, but I'm listening to this guy's calls too and just taking something from everybody, So during this time, these are the six months I'm going through. This is going on through the summer, this summer and the winter, summer, fall, and winter, like pretty much majority of the year is about 6 to 8 months. I'm going through this time where I haven't got any deals. I'm getting deals under contract, but nothing's closed. So I'm getting deals under contract. I'm learning how to be a closer, and every day I'm getting better. I'm just becoming obsessed. And now I understand the structure now. I get introduced to the structure of a phone call and not only seeing what people are doing, but now I'm noticing why they're doing what they're doing. And then just diving deeper and I'm hearing the mentality of just getting into the mind of the sellers. And that's when I started to understand the psychology of a seller and understand why I'm doing exactly what I'm doing, right? So having long pauses and saying different words at different times and having different tones of voices that now I'm understanding like the ninja stuff, the high level closer stuff. And during this time, like Marlon said, I wasn't taking enough swings at the bat, swings at the plate. So now I'm working on 2 teams. I have my own team that I'm generating leads on, that I have my partners with, we're generating leads on, and I'm working on this other guy's team where they have a factory. They're generating so many leads every single day. I almost couldn't keep up with my own stuff. So at this point in my life, I'm waking up early, hitting the daily dial. Now I'm actually participating in the daily dial. Again, the daily dial is role playing every single day in the sub 2 community, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. I would get up. First thing I would do every day after my routine is getting the daily dial. Then I would get on the phones. And then I would stay on the phones all day. This is when I lost a lot of those relationships. This is when I had to put my PlayStation in the closet and become obsessed with making phone calls and having these conversations and solving people's problems. And this is how I became a closer. It was just so many reps. I would have 50 to 60 conversations every single day, minimum. I'd make 100 plus calls every single day. I'd have so many conversations, and I was just doing it all day, and I had no choice but to get good. I sacrificed friendships. Actually, my last relationship, me and my girl broke up during this time because this is all I was thinking about. All I was doing all day was making calls. How do I become better at my craft? A lot of family, they were looking at me differently. They were maybe doubting me, right? Thinking that I couldn't do what I'm saying I'm gonna do, calling me dumb for quitting my job and just not supporting me. So when that happens, I cut them off. I don't want to be around that energy. So I lost friendships. I lost relationships, family members that I still don't talk to during that time. You know, I really didn't care about what other people thought, bro, because I was in a position to where if I didn't make this happen, I was gonna be homeless again. I just came out of a situation where I didn't have my own bed. I didn't have my own roof over my head where I could call my home. I didn't want to go back to that. So that's what I'm, even to this day, that's what I'm running from. I don't want to ever be in a position like that ever again. So that's why I was dedicated to making 1,000 calls a day. I just think people just didn't understand, because they're like, you just went to school for all these years. I don't blame them, right? I went to school for all these years. I had a decent job. I was making good money. Why would I do this? But they didn't see everything else that was going on. And I seen way bigger than working 9 to 5 for the next 40 to 50 years, hoping to retire. I know that God put me here to be heard and provide as much value as I can to people. You know, so I didn't believe that me getting my first deal and being introduced to real estate was a mistake at all. Everything happens for a reason. So I know that the path that I was on was way smaller than what I'm chasing right now, what I'm after right now. You know, I seen me helping billions of people, standing on stages, talking about my journey, buying hundreds, thousands of units, and just providing value to the world. You know, I know they didn't see that. People still don't see that vision, and they think that you're crazy until you accomplish your goals. You know, until you say what they say you couldn't do. Right. So that's what I seen, and that's what I still see. So people, it was actually crazy because after I quit my job, I was actually ashamed. I didn't want to tell my parents that I quit for like the first couple months, and they just kept asking me about work, and I just had to tell them, I'm like, listen, I don't work there anymore. I don't quit. I quit. I am actively wholesaling every single day, and that's when they were like super concerned. They're like, no, you shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. And maybe their advice was right for some people, right? I don't advise everybody to just quit their job and just leave, and just like, if you don't have the reserves set aside, the money, I would say at least 6 months of reserves, to where if shit hits the fan and you don't make another dollar, you can go get another job. Yeah, you can go on your backup plan. But I look at myself differently. I'm a dog, like I said. So if I quit my job, I realize that when I'm in positions to where I'm uncomfortable is when I work my hardest, right? Is when I work the best. So constantly I put myself in situations to where I'm uncomfortable. You know, like I moved out to Arizona living in a fucking RV, right? Like constantly I have multiple bank accounts. As soon as I get money, I move all my money in different bank accounts, so it feels like I'm broke. Like I'm uncomfortable. I need to make more money. I need to do this. I need to do that. So I realized that when I put myself in uncomfortable positions, I find out a lot about myself, and I always come out succeeding. So that's what I needed to do to accomplish that vision, to reach that vision that I seen that nobody else seen. And really, I wasn't really worried about what other people thought. You know, I knew what I needed to do. Like what I learned most from that was going through the shit and like getting deals under contract and them not closing, right? Because of something, right? I'm always learning something on these. I've closed, like I said, I had a bunch of contracts while I was working with these people. Not a lot of them actually closed, but every single time I got a contract from them, I learned a new lesson. Right? And this is how I became a better closer. So I would get an objection and I would say, I do not know how to overcome this. This is a great question. I don't know the answer to this. Let me write this down and let me go ask my manager, and I can come back to give you this answer. And I would go back to my manager. He would tell me how to overcome the objection, and then I would go back and overcome the objection. So working for somebody really was it gave me that guidance that I needed to. Now when I have these problems, when I get the same objection, when the same problem comes up, it's like, oh, that's easy. All right, my team comes up to me now and they're like, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And they're like freaking out. And I'm like, nah, that's not that bad. We just do this, right? And it's because I've been there before and I was that person that was freaking out. And I went to the person that I was working for at the time and they solved the problem. Now I was very aware and I was very asking the questions that I needed to ask to learn what they were doing, to understand this is what I need to do next time it comes up. Because I understood that this is not the only time that this problem is gonna come up. One thing about me in general, when I'm focused on one thing, I give my everything to it. So I knew I wanted to be a closer. So when I first joined the community, I was thirsty. I was hungry to figure out, how do I become a closer? I got the instructions and I did it. I made every single call that I needed to. I gave myself the opportunity to focus just on closing, because this is something that I wish I knew starting off. When you're wholesaling, it's a business. Many people treat it like a hobby. And there's so many different hats that you need to wear in this business to make it a successful business. Or else you're going to step on your own feet and things are going to move really slow for you. Like I was talking about earlier, if you're cold calling all day, then you get a contract and now you got to open up escrow and then find a buyer. Who's going to cold call? Nobody. So I was able to take the first year. Thankfully, I had a cool landlord who understood that I was an entrepreneur and I was going through some tough times. Honestly, he was a real estate investor as well, so he was on my buyer's list. And he was asking me when I was late for my rent. I would think that he was hitting me up for rent, but he was really asking me if I had any properties in the area that he could buy. And it was crazy. So I was blessed to have somebody who understood, and I was able to make him whole and everything like that. But I was able to focus strictly on making calls to sellers. That's it. And that's what was able to put me in a position to become very, very good on the phones, very dangerous on the phones. And that's because I dedicated months, pretty much a whole year. I dedicated a whole year to be the best closer I could be and just have these conversations with sellers. I've learned a lot so far in this journey of entrepreneurship and just real estate wholesaling. You just heard how I became, the steps that it took for me to become a closer, become the best closer that I wanted to be. These are the steps. If you want to be a closer, take those steps. So the first step is you have to know yourself. I knew I wanted to be a closer, so I put myself in a position to where I only was able to focus on closing deals and talking to sellers. You need to know yourself. If you want to be a dispo person, then focus on dispo. Put yourself in a position to where you're getting contracts and you're finding buyers. If you want to be a transaction coordinator, find somebody who's getting contracts and be their transaction coordinator. Put yourself in a position to where you can focus on getting good at your craft and getting good at your skill, and focus on the skills. On the next episode, I'm going to be talking about partnerships. In the beginning, when I first started off, I felt like I needed a partner right away, and I made a lot of mistakes. So I'm going to talk about the mistakes that I made, the lessons that I learned, and hopefully you can learn from that as well. So if you have not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to this channel, like the video for me, drop a comment for me. Tell me the 3 things that you learned from this episode, and I'll see you next one.
I'm in a whip, so I gotta zoom. They tryna talk, they not in a room. I've been so real, I'm dead to the tomb. They in the way, they gotta move. I got a gas, they running on fumes. Told them way back.